you for that. So we're talking about fall foods today. So I had picked a recipe that was going to highlight fall food. So it's got eggplant in it, and butternut squash was the big deal. But then when I went to the store, there was no butternut squash. Who knew? So it also said it would be okay to use sweet potatoes. So that's what I used. But then I found these green giant butternut squash spirals. So I threw that in it too. They're frozen, and it's a butternut squash that's been spiralized. And if you've cooked with butternut squash, it's kind of hard and it takes some effort and a knife. And this is the funnest thing I've ever seen.
In the freezer section?
It was in the freezer section. It's just green giant, no sodium or anything. It's just spiralized butternut squash. So you'll have to tell me how it is, because we cooked it in the Instapot. We may never get all that pressure out. Who knows? So before we start talking about fall foods, I have to say October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. It's also Vegetarian Awareness Month. So happy Vegetarian Month. But I just had a few tips on breast cancer up here. There's a gal named Christy Funk, who's a doctor who I really love. She wrote a book called the Owner's Manual or something. She's quite a guru in the breast cancer world. And so here's 4 ways to reduce risk of breast cancer. And one is plant-based foods. That's like number 1 on her list. So just the way we like to eat: fruits, veggies, whole grains, beans. So she's not saying you have to go totally vegan, but she's saying we want to be plant-based, have more plants than not. But if we're going to eat meat, stay away from processed meats. That's one type of meat. So what's a processed meat? Ham and what? Bologna. Yeah. Things that aren't normal.
Not liver. Yeah, I used to eat liver.
Liverwurst. I grew up on liverwurst and Spam. Oh yeah. I love liverwurst back in the day. So those are processed meats. Those have definitely been associated with cancer risk. And so we want to avoid those. And it's okay to include soy. We've always learned over the years, or the doctors who are looking at the older research tell people, oh, you got to stay away from soy. And that's what we thought back when the original research came out. But now we know soy's okay.
Why did they say it?
Why do they say it's okay, or wasn't?
No, that wasn't.
They used to think the soy was more associated with a cancer risk. That was often done on animal studies. So based on that information, doctors are still saying this to people: oh, don't have soy, can't have any soy. But so especially breast cancer, because soy has a plant estrogen in it. That was the thing, how it was associated with breast cancer. Soy has a plant estrogen in it. And they said, well, if I have breast cancer, that was because of too much estrogen. I shouldn't have the soy. But what they found out is it doesn't act that way at all. And it's totally fine to have a moderate amount of soy. Exercise regularly. That makes your immune system stronger. I know that's what you all are doing already. Limit alcohol, because it can raise estrogen levels and can cause damage to our DNA, which increases our risk of breast cancer. And maintain a healthy weight, because those, oops, sorry, I was going to try to move this so I could see what it says, but now I can't. Oh, there we go. Fat cells can make more estrogen. So these are 4 things to reduce risk of breast cancer. We're doing all of those, hopefully. So welcome to fall. Does anybody here love fall besides me? I love fall. I would say it's my favorite. I love spring too. I like the changes in season more than I actually like the hot and the cold, I guess. But I think fall is so fun. This gets a little cooler out. The colors all change. See, Mary's wearing her orange. You got pumpkins. You got just a specific kind of produce out there that isn't here the rest of the time of year. So in season, we've got the apples and the pears. Anybody been to Apple Hill yet? I have not been yet, but I do plan to go. Got apples and pears. You got greens, which we have pretty much year round nowadays, but winter squash, which really grew in the summer, but now they're still good all through winter because they have that thick skin and they last a long time. We've got beets, we got sweet potatoes, which, nowadays we have a lot of these year round. Turnips, parsnips, so the root vegetables with their greens, and then Brussels sprouts. Oh, I think they got the lid off over there. Okay, good. So what's your favorite fall food? Pumpkin pie. Okay, or we'll just say pumpkin. Okay.
Butternut squash.
Butternut squash soup. Excellent. Okay. Anything else?
Well, fabulous. I'd say apples.
I love the apples too. I love apples. Apple pie, all the things of apple. So we'll have some slides on all these, I think. Oh, is somebody trying to talk to me? Maybe not. Okay. So to cook our fall foods or prepare our fall foods, there's some tools that might help. A crock pot for that butternut squash soup, or a pressure cooker or Instant Pot, which I'm trying to figure out a new one over here, but it's so great to make things quick and easy. A rice cooker. I think a blender or a Vitamix would be a high-speed blender, are nice to blend up things. You can even make a soup. You could make your butternut squash soup in a blender. Having a chopper. I think I would add to that a good knife, especially if you're cutting these winter squash. A sheet pan, that I used that in our soup because our soup today called for roasting these fall veggies and then throwing them in and kind of heating them up with some cans of tomato and things. A grill basket in case we wanted to take our fall veggies and grill them on the grill. A veggie peeler. Or, I did put an excellent knife down there. How'd the soup turn out, you guys?
I think it's okay.
You do? Just okay?
Actually try it, it will be a lot.
You heard it here first. The soup is just okay.
I haven't.
Thumbs up over here.
What about a food processor?
Oh, I should add that to my list. I could not survive without my food processor. You're absolutely right. A food processor I love because it just saves so much time. Last night I made a veggie burger recipe and everything I just blended up in the food processor before I made my patties. So I think a food processor is excellent. Okay, so let's start from the top of my list. I had apples and pears. What's so great about those? Well, they're a good source of the soluble fiber, which is the kind of fiber that helps to lower your cholesterol, like the kind we find in oats and beans and barley. If you've ever made jam, to make it jammy, they add pectin, and pectin is what you'll find in your apples. They're also full of antioxidants, which help us to fight off getting sick and protect our DNA. And so what do we do with these things? Well, one thing is it's the original fast food are apples and pears or fruit, any fruit. You just eat it as is. But you could also make applesauce with those apples. And I know a lot of us think, well, I would never go to the trouble of making applesauce because I can just buy a jar of it. But there is something great about homemade applesauce. And it's so easy, especially have the crock pot or the Instant Pot. You can also just do it on the stove. We can do baked apples or pears. Anybody here like the baked apple? How do you do your baked apples?
I haven't done one.
You haven't? Oh, mine do too. That's so funny. I do them in the microwave. You just core them out, put some little raisins or something in the middle and do them in the microwave for about 5 minutes. You could take those apples and pears and make a crisp, a cobbler, a buckle.
I make some apple muffins.
You make apple muffins. Oh, that's good. Do you grate the apples?
Kind of chop them and then squeeze them a little bit.
Okay. So apple muffins. I like that idea. We can make salads, as I was looking for a recipe for today.
Is there teeth?
Sorry, we're having an issue with our small spoons today. But I saw a great spiralized apple and pear and cabbage salad. We can throw apples and pears into soups and stews. Yes, David.
I'd like to have great the taste of the soup.
You want some of this?
Very good.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Maybe very, very. good.
Okay, at least one very, maybe two very goods on the soup. Two very goods? Okay, good. All right. How do you like those butternut squash, the spiralized butternut squash? Can you tell? Or did they turn to mush in there? No? Okay. Good. All right. You can add your apples and pears to oatmeal. And speaking of oatmeal, I just have to tell you, every time I talk to you all, I talk about how we should have savory oatmeal. And you said you have savory oatmeal, and I've never into savory oatmeal. So I'm still not into it. I haven't tried it exactly, but today I did try it with grated carrots. It was a carrot cake, overnight oats. I know it's pretty good.
They have this apple granola.
Oh, okay.
I don't have where I can, you have to break down the sugar.
Yes. Okay, I'm hearing there's a great apple granola at Sam's. Okay, so look at all these apples, and this doesn't even have my favorite apple. I'm a pink lady person. I love the pink lady. What do you guys like? Fuji? You know, your Granny Smith. I love the Granny Smith too. Pink lady's awesome. Honey Crisps, okay. Yeah, those are kind of one of the newer ones.
I mixed them.
You do?
Yeah, I just made a pie with Granny Smith's.
Okay, and you're right, it's fun to mix these when you're making things like your crisps or your pies or things. The one that you always get when you go to like somewhere where they give you a box lunch, they always give you the Red Delicious, my least favorite of all.
Yeah, I don't like it.
No. So we just have lots. I encourage you to try some of the new ones as they come out. Go to your farmer's market, see what's in. There it's nice because you can taste them all. I've never had a wealthy one. Never seen that one before. Which one? The gin. Oh, okay. Oh, I've never had those. I think I've had a Macintosh, but there's just lots of different kinds. Okay, then we've got the winter squash. Remember, the winter squash aren't like our zucchini and our summer squash. They have a super thick skin and they come in all kinds of shapes and sizes. Here's a cut up one right there. You see your butternut squash up there on the right. I'll show you a bunch more squash, but they're high in fiber. So they, compared to a zucchini, let's say, or summer squash, they're higher in calorie too, because they're more starchy, they have more carb, and they're more fiber than we're going to get from those other ones. So that doesn't mean they're bad just because they're a little higher in calorie. But they're a good source of vitamin A and C, especially with the orange color. They're strong antioxidants. I think they're versatile because you can use them interchangeably. So like my recipe called for butternut squash, and I really could have used acorn squash or any other kind of squash too. I think they're pretty cheap for the most part. It depends on where you're getting them, I suppose, but they're pretty inexpensive for as much as flesh as you get. And you know, they're beautiful. I use the winter squash for a fall display on my dining room table. So I love when this time of year comes around. Okay, so let's name that squash. What do we see? What's number one?
Kabocha.
I think it's a kabocha. I'll have the picture on the next slide with all their names. I think it's kabocha. Okay, what's number two? There's our butternut. That's the one that got spiralized into our soup today. What's number three? I think it's a sugar pumpkin. What's number four?
The delicata.
No, number 9 is.
Number 9's delicata.
Oh.
4 and 6 I always get mixed up. One's a carnival and one's a little dumpling. Is it? Okay, well, I'm going to flip in a minute and we'll see all the answers. Number 5 is a pumpkin too. I think it's just a regular pumpkin. What about number 7? That's our spaghetti squash where we can use that flesh like spaghetti. What's number 8? I think it's a blue Hubbard.
Never heard of that.
And so 9's the delicata. We already said that one. What about 10? You think 10's a Hubbard? What's a curry? The K-U-R-I? I don't know. What about 11?
That to me looks like.
Oh, okay. That could be kabocha. We'll find out in a minute. And number 12, there's your acorn.
Debbie, do you have a chayote on there?
No, no, I do not, but that would be good. Now, chayote, that would be calorie wise more like a zucchini or more like a winter squash.
I think it's like a winter squash.
Okay, good to know. Are you cooking with that on? No. Okay.
No, I'm not.
All right. Okay, so here we are. So that was a green kabocha. And then, oh, that wasn't a sugar pumpkin. That was a red kabocha. And there's our carnival and our little sweet dumpling. And that was pumpkin. That was a red curry. The bonbon. I've never even heard of the bonbon.
You made it up.
I think so. And then there's our acorn and there's that blue Hubbard. So look at all these squash. And I bet if you're like me, you eat the same ones. You do the spaghetti, you do the butternut, yeah, and the acorn, those are like my favorites. But all of these are good to try, and you'll find all of them at your farmers markets. Or maybe Linda's yard. Are you growing any?
But Dave grew a bunch of delicatas this year. He was bringing those in.
Oh,
I've grown 3 of those squashes for the pumpkin, the butternut, delicata,
uh-huh.
and they're so easy to grow. Throw seed in the ground, make sure it gets some water.
Okay.
For it to climb on, it's always useful, but it'll climb on.
Okay.
You plant at the
So
same time
you
you
see the-
plant your other stuff?
What?
You plant them at the same time you plant.
Same time, yeah, I grow them in the winter, spring, summer, but they last for a very long time. We have to refrigerate it or put it in a cold box.
So true.
Or leave it in the bowl, then, on the sideboard and eat it when you're ready. Very easy to grow.
So Dave is a good gardener, apparently, of the winter squash, and he puts them in the spring, early summer, and then they just kind of take on their own life and grow, and they're great. This was my first year I tried butternut squash, and I was so excited, and it spread and it climbed, like you said, and I had all these butternut squash hanging off of it, and I was going to be so proud. And then the deer came and ate every last one. So none. Okay, and here I just wanted to show this picture because it's a good picture of them sliced in half, so you can see what they look like on the inside. We didn't have that bottom right one. That's a turban. That's actually a great one for stuffing. Yeah.
That picture kind of lies because that delicata has more flesh in it than the one that we have here.
So yeah, Rose was pointing out that a lot of times the delicata don't have as much flesh as they have seeds, and you're right.
Yeah, that one.
You
that
were
one
right.
is Really.
Yeah, that one looks good. We want that one. So-
Go back.
Okay.
So for the money in the pound, obviously the butternut has the most flesh of any of these. Maybe that's why you always go to it.
Maybe. You're right. It does have, the butternut has a lot of flesh. Well, and so does spaghetti. It's just different kinds of
Well, that's
flesh.
different, that's different
Yeah.
concept.
So what do you do with the squash? Oh my gosh. So you can roast it. What? Mhm.
You're
Soup?
saying soup.
Right. I thought you were saying soap, but oh, do they make butternut squash soap? So, okay, soup. You can roast it, you can grill it, you can stuff it, you can chop it, you can puree it. You can scrape it like on that spaghetti. So here they're showing a spaghetti squash. You cook it, and you can even cook it. And I don't generally do this. I usually slice them in half, put them in a Pyrex pan, put them in the oven for a while, but you can just throw the whole thing whole into the microwave. Has anybody done that?
Yeah.
And then it's cooked and soft, and then it's easier to cut in half. And then you scoop out your seeds, which are right there in the middle, but then the flesh, you take a fork and run it along the sides, and you get strands like you would have spaghetti. So that's always fun. And just butternut squash is a kind of a tough one to cut and peel. So here's just an example of how to do it. You got your butternut squash up in the upper left-hand corner. You cut off your ends and the bottom left. you peel it with a peeler or a knife, however you like to peel, in the upper right. And then you cut it. I like to cut it like this one is not as bulbous at the bottom. The one they showed, this one's a little more similar in size across, but usually you've got like a little bulb at the bottom and a skinnier top. So I usually cut it at the bulb because the bulb has all the seeds. And so you cut it and then you scoop out, cut it in half, scoop out all your seeds. And you know, all the seeds in the winter squash, you can roast like you would pumpkin seeds too. I've never been successful at that, but if you are, more power to you. And then they just show this great way of cutting it where you get uniform pieces. Also another thing I rarely get. So they just look like chunks of string cheese, huh? So it takes some work. It takes effort. You can buy it already all cut too. I think they have that in the freezer section. And so in fact, that's what I was looking for. I went to Winco. That's where I was shopping yesterday. And they didn't have any butternut squash. So I went to the freezer section to find it in chunks. And all I found were the spiralized one, which I thought was a fun find anyway.
Can you go back one just for a second?
Mhm.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so that's our butternut squash. So let's say you cut that into all those chunks. You could throw it in that soup we made today. You could cook it up with some broth, and then you can maybe even add a little curry or something and puree it. So you're going to have your butternut squash soup. You could spiralize it and put it into a salad. You can just roast it and eat it with all kinds of different things, all your winter vegetables. Okay, so now we're going to go greens. We talk greens all the time. I know you know your greens, but greens can help with weight loss among many other things because they make you feel more full and hopefully curb our desire for junk food. They got folate in them, you've got iron, you got vitamins A and C, and you got iron again. But maybe that other iron should say calcium, because that would be in our greens too.
Shouldn't say what.
Calcium.
Calcium.
Yeah. So calcium would be a good thing that's in those. So what's your favorite green?
Chard.
I hear chard, sorry, kale, spinach, collards. You know, collards is one I don't hear from. I do love collards too. They're nice and sturdy. I like the sturdier greens.
Spinach, collard.
Those big ones. And what?
I like the first three are my favorite.
Yeah, oh, okay. You've got spinach, collards, mustard greens. Mustard greens have a little bitter, sharp taste to them.
Chard is good too.
I love chard. I feel like chard is a good gateway to eating greens.
You know, beet greens are good too, and you don't eat them.
Beet greens are very good and we should not be throwing them away. You're right.
Yeah.
You are right. Another green that's so hip now, I should have put on here. What's that one that's in all the fancy salads? Arugula, thank you. Yeah, that should be on here too. Oh, we could do greens from, yeah, you're right. That is true. You are right. So we got all kinds of greens. And then here's our beets. So it's 2 veggies in one, as Rose pointed out. You got your beets on the bottom, you got your greens on the top. And sometimes when I'm at the farmer's market, I've seen people say to the farmer, oh, just keep the greens. I think, are you kidding me? That is so good too. So you can eat on the beet itself, you can eat it raw, you can grate it and make it into a little salad. You can roast them, you can microwave them and cook them quickly. You can throw them in soups and stews. There's different colors. You've got your red, you've got your golden, you got your Tioga. Is that how you say that one? That's the one up on top. It looks like a
Red
sucker.
onion?
Yeah, it does. Looks like red onion.
I never had that one.
No, I tried to grow those one year, but they didn't come out very good. I'm not the best farmer. And then we got the Brussels sprout, always comes out for the holidays, and now it's kind of a normal holiday thing. But they're the cruciferous veggies, so they're good cancer fighters. Vitamin C, vitamin K, antioxidants. They're super high in fiber. You can roast them, grill them, shred them. Who here loves the Brussels sprout? You guys are so great. What do you do with them? Pizza? Do you shred them? Oh, shred them and put them on pizza. Oh, nice. Okay, what else?
My wife does a couple different things with them. Salsa stove
Uh-huh.
in the oven as well.
Okay, so in the oven, you can roast it, you do them on the stovetop. What else we got?
Roasted with squash.
Roast them with squash. Perfect. Okay,
I had a recipe that you season with sesame oil,
yes.
and they were really good.
Oh, seasoned with sesame oil. I like that. I think our picture up here is like a holiday picture. So you've got, I bet they were roasted with some cranberries.
They're really good with nuts too.
They're good with nuts. Yeah, that is true.
Not a little bit of this, just rhythm, but the nuts can help bring it out.
Okay. All right. I like it. The little nut flavor.
Good gateway. kids can Brussels sprouts.
You know, we do need some gateway foods. You are right. You know, when I grew up, we ate the typical American diet, and I would never have known that there were Brussels sprouts that you could eat them fresh. We always had frozen Brussels. I didn't, same with beets. We always had canned beets. I had no idea you could buy a beet.
We never saw it.
We had them in the yard as a kid.
Really? Yeah, you grew them.
And my mother used to grow them.
Huh. Fun. All right. Then we've got the root veggies. We see these year round, but they're in season now. They're full of antioxidants, high in fiber. It's kind of like all our veggies. Vitamin C. Turnips will often come with their greens too. Parsnips, which are like the white carrots up there, those are actually great pureed. You see those a lot of times on holiday tables. So we've got the celery root is down there in the bottom left too, right? Or is that a rutabaga?
Well, no, bottom right is rutabaga.
Right, so rutabaga. Turnips have the little purple hue. And I think that's the celery root down there on the bottom left. And sometimes it's fun to just cut up, get all the root vegetables, cut them all up, put them on a sheet tray and roast them. And you can serve them that way, like that little picture. Or you could puree them all up and make them into a soup. Oh, celeriac. That's right, celery root. So what do you do with them? I think I already told you. Roast them, chop them, put them in soup and stew, saute them. That might only need one E. Puree them and grill them. And look, here's some other root vegetables. Oh, kohlrabi. Who here uses kohlrabi? I hardly ever do too. It's
Oh, kohlrabi.
kohlrabi. Yeah, I hardly ever use it either. I don't know why. It's good. There's beets, there's celeriac.
Parsnips, they're a lot more expensive than carrots, aren't they?
Oh, definitely more expensive than carrots, but they're not, I wouldn't say they're overpriced, especially not in the winter. Usually all those are kind of cheap. The sunchoke, I love those too. What's their other name? Jerusalem artichoke. Thank you. Yeah. So there's just, I think we tend to go with what's comfortable and the things that we always have. And maybe what we should do is branch out and try a different root vegetable, try a different winter squash, try a different beet. So I just listed 10 ways to eat more fall foods. One, there's the baked apple. We talked about that. Core it, fill it with a little yumminess, cover it and microwave it for 5 minutes. Great dessert. Greens, I mean, I feel like we should try to have greens at every meal. I try to have them always at dinner. And basically I just put them in the pan, let them wilt. Maybe I'll throw some garlic on it. I throw my little mix of turmeric and black pepper and garlic powder. I put that on it instead of the salt and pepper. And there you go. And they take seconds. Some hold up better than others. So that's why I like kale and I like spinach too, but kale holds up better. So I like the kale, and collard greens would be another one. Do you still have to cook collard greens for a really long time? No? When I first learned how to cook collards, they always say you had to really cook them. So, okay, that's good because they're fast. There's our little beet salad. You know, you could just grate a beet, you peel it, grate it, add a little balsamic vinegar, maybe a little mustard, and you've got a nice little salad. You can make a soup by throwing in your greens. In fact, that soup we made today, we could have just thrown in some greens at the end, let them wilt, and that would have been a nice addition. Spaghetti squash, you can use that flesh instead of pasta if you'd like with your favorite sauce. You could also, a lot of recipes call to put it back into the shell. And then you have a little stuffed one and then you can bake it. Poached pears. I love the poached pear. I tend to do mine with red wine. I don't think you always have to. You can do it in the Instant Pot. Add a little sugar, cinnamon, and you can just pressure cook them and they're so yummy. You can stuff your winter squash. Acorn's my favorite to stuff. Usually I cut it in half, cook it for a bit, and then I have this mixture of apples and apricots and a little orange peel and some nuts and put that back in and bake it for a little bit longer. It's a really yummy meal. You can roast any cut up vegetables or winter squash, put them on your cookie sheet, 425 for about 20 minutes, easy. You can make your homemade applesauce. You can make a salad and top them with any of your fall fruits and veggies. Or if you roasted them in number 8, you can put those on your salad number 10. So how about a little challenge because it's fall? Maybe we could aim for 2 cups of veggies at lunch and dinner. What do you think about that?
Hard to do.
It is hard. You know, is it hard at dinner or just at lunch?
Lunch,
Lunch is harder. You're right. I totally agree with you.
2 cups each meal or 2 cups for?
No, each meal. Yeah. Okay, that's good. And so it just means adding a little bit more to what you're doing, maybe. Because I don't know, our traditional lunch, we have carrot sticks. And then I could always add some greens to it or reheat whatever I'm reheating and put that on a bed of greens.
Are you suggesting the size 2 cups before it's cooked? Because I mean, 2 cups of raw vegetables cooks down to about.
Yeah,
So I'd like to
I
see
am.
where it's cooked.
yeah, you're right.
So I'd like to see 4 cups,
Yeah, you're right.
or you steam them.
So I was just listening to a podcast on the way over here and it was with Furman, who he does the G bombs. You get your greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, seeds every day, which I like. I kind of subscribe to that. But he said we should have a pound of vegetables raw and a pound of vegetables cooked every day.
Wow.
That's a lot of vegetables. You got to really think about it. I know. I don't quite do it, but it's something, you know, we can aspire to.
But you're implying that people eat lunch.
Well, that's true. Not everyone eats lunch. You're right. But
I
this,
eat- I eat lunch, but I don't eat dinner.
okay. And some people do that. People have, you know, different meals. But I think knowing I need to eat more vegetables makes me realize I need to have savory oatmeal in the morning, because then that would be another way to add more vegetables. I encourage you to try to eat what's in season and try a new fall fruit or veggies. Go to your farmer's market, see what's in. And to buy local, because that's, you're going to get the most in season fresh stuff and it helps our local farmers. Choose organic when you can. I know we can't always do organic. Sometimes it's too expensive. I don't get organic all the time either, but try to when you can. Support your farmers markets, or CSAs, or those community supported agriculture, that like produce boxes. Does anybody get those? I know we got Full Belly Farms and we've got Soilborn Farms, I think does that. I'm doing now Imperfect Foods, which are, I like, but it's not always local. So what I like about Imperfect Foods, it's kind of ugly stuff, but it's still perfectly good. I've never gotten anything I couldn't eat. But it could be too small for the market, or they had too much of it. And you can go pick exactly what you want. So I like that about it. And so they say where it's from. So if it's from Chile, I don't get it. If it's from California, I do. But hello, this time of year, I love to go to the markets. And so if you do all that, what's going to happen? Well, you're going to have good heart health. You might lose weight if you need to lose weight. Your diabetes will be at better control, and you'll be eating great, fabulous food. So that's our challenge. And here's my little fall bucket list, which I don't know, I found this last year and I thought it was fun. Do you have something fall that's like on your list of what you want to do every fall?
Go to Apple Hill.
Yeah, I think Apple Hill is a common one. That's mine too. I go to Apple Hill, you're right.
See the change color?
Go see the change in colors in the trees. You're right. It's very nice in Placer County if you haven't made it out that direction. What else do we do? What else on our list? Bake. Yeah, definitely baking. Go for a hayride. Jump in a big old pile of leaves. Hello, I'm going to a pumpkin patch this week. Pick your own apples. Who likes haunted houses? Do you? Are you going to one this year? Where do you like to go?
Southern California, but, there's actually, a few neighborhoods actually in the area that have them.
Really?
And, like Lucus,
Oh, that's
and
fun.
they go out into it, so,
Huh.
they put on their whole, like, churchy houses. have
Yeah.
it all, so.
Oh, that's cool. You know, I do live in one of those neighborhoods where they really, everybody since September has had all their Halloween stuff up. We're very, very behind. Let's see. Watch a family tradition movie, corn maze, hot cocoa. Choose a new Thanksgiving recipe. I think we could all probably think about that. There's your baking. And of course, always we want to give thanks. And then this has nothing to do with my topic, but I just learned about sorghum. And I've actually had a little in my cupboard. It's a grain. When I went to Winco and asked for it yesterday, she thought it was a spice and showed me all the spices. I said, no, it's a grain like barley. It kind of has a barley farro look to it. But I just listened to something about sorghum. Is it who here's even had sorghum before?
Velma brought some in.
Yeah, Velma, I think, got it at Grocery Outlet once. And so what do you guys do with sorghum?
Cook it like quinoa.
Okay, so you just cook it like a grain. All right. Anybody, what do you do with it?
Oh, no, I just heard about it.
Oh, you just heard of it. Okay,
Did
all
you
right.
Get some or not?
Well, they didn't have any at Winco. They didn't have any at Rayleigh's. And I had some in my cupboard that I had gotten for a recipe a while ago. I must have gotten it at Whole Foods because I could not find any. But what's great about sorghum, so many things. First of all, it's gluten-free for people who are trying to avoid gluten. It's higher in protein actually than the other grains. I always tell people quinoa is the highest protein grain. You know, sorghum's actually higher. And it's got all the nutrients, of course, in it. And it's sustainable. It's kind of very drought tolerant. So it's something, and Linda, you and I were reading that article you sent me. It was amaranth that was supposed to be a good one too. For that was sustainable and good for droughts, right?
Yeah.
But sorghum is also. And it's just like a regular grain. So I'm vowing to try some more sorghum. And if you find any sorghum, let me know where you get it.
They make a gluten-free beer out of sorghum.
Oh, you know, okay. So Rob says they can make gluten-free beer out of it, which is awesome. And that's another thing. So so much of our grains were grown to feed the cows or to feed the animals, when really we could just cut out the middleman and just eat it ourselves. And it's very rich in nutrients. It's also ground in flour a lot. So you'll see it in flours and apparently see it in beer. So I'm just going to try some more sorghum. So thank you. So I took these pictures, I don't know, on a trip not that long ago or a few years ago, where we want to stick to the trail. So think about your plan, about why you're here, why you're doing what you're doing, health-wise, why you're eating the way you do, and exercise and take care of yourself. So you want to stick to the trail, stick to your plan, and give plants a chance. Okay, the end.